welcome to Above Replacement Radio. I am your host, Chris Gianta. You know what Christy Mathewson wasn't worried about? SIERA. When you're thinking about Pedro Siriaco, I mean, the only one that can compete is maybe Hannes Wagner's 1908 season. Over there on the other side of the screen is Daniel Kern.
Like, if we just clip together every time we've talked about him on other people's profiles, we've done a Mickey Cochran episode.
I can't get past Rabbit Marinville. It's not necessarily Hall of Fame. It's not necessarily above average, but we can guarantee you we are better than just the standard replacement level college sophomore.
And welcome to Above Replacement Radio, where we're talking baseball kind of whenever. I am your host, Chris Gianta. Over there on the other side of the screen is Daniel Curran. How you doing, Daniel?
Chris, I'm doing. Gotta get into it.
All right, let's get right into the news. Unfortunate, very unfortunate news coming from, I believe it was in Atlanta, Georgia. Marcell Ozuna, unfortunately, caught up in a domestic abuse case where there's quite a bit of evidence, quite a lot of eyewitness testimonies to be had. And we don't really know where his future, what his future holds.
It's not in Major League Baseball. I think we've seen the last of Marcel Ozuna on the baseball field. It's for all the wrong reasons, obviously, and this is not a fun situation. But every now and then, we tend to forget that these people, they have personal lives off the baseball field. Obviously, we see Marcel Ozuna as this crazy power hitter taking selfies around the bases, and sometimes at home they're not the same, and it's for the worse sometimes, and that's what we're looking at right here.
So for those unaware, a report came out Saturday night, I believe, where Marcel Ozuna had been arrested. There was, witnesses called police saying there was a disturbance at, the Ozuna household, and, saying that it seemed to be a domestic abuse thing. Police got there and it was still going on. And this seemed like a very long, drawn out incident. And there's no signs pointing to Marcel Ozuna's innocence right now.
Yeah, no, it doesn't look good for him on any fronts. Like, the police apparently witnessed it happening. I won't get into details just because it's very graphic for this show, but if you want to know exactly what happened, the police reports, they're out there. I believe Jeff Passan tweeted them out. Plenty of other news sources did so, but they are out there, and it really does not look like Marcel Ozuna is going to be saved from this at all.
Yeah, and I guess, obviously there's the human element, and that's definitely the most important. But I guess you kind of have to see it from a baseball element as well, as, there's obviously going to be a hole in the Braves lineup. They just signed him to a 4-year deal as well, worth quite a bit of money. I think it was a total of $80 million, because there was a 5th-year option where the cost of the option costs about the same as the buyout for the option. I think it was one of those things. But obviously there's the human element, which is terrible, but also now the Braves are without one of their biggest bats, and you wonder what they're going to do with the absence of Ozuna.
I'm really wondering, do they have a right to exempt him from that contract should things go south and he end up not being in a position where he can step on a ball field for the next 1 to 3 years? Because I'm pretty sure Passan said that these charges were a minimum 3 years in prison.
Right. Yeah. It's I don't know. I haven't read anything on it. And I don't know if there's anything out there on it, and I don't know if it'll be publicized if we do know about it, but I mean, I'm guessing it will have to because payrolls are publicized. So if he's not on the payroll, then it will be then
Yeah.
it'll be public knowledge.
So just a little quick note from Jeff Passan's Twitter. Normally aggravated assault, which is the charges he's been dealt with, is minimum of 1 year. But if it's done to a spouse, it's a felony, which is minimum 3 years, and that's what we're dealing with here, and maximum 20 years.
Yeah, yeah, and this feels like something where he probably is not going to get the minimum sentence. It's probably going to be something beyond that because the details are so out there, and the witnesses are,
Yeah.
and the evidence is right there. Yeah, very wild. But yeah, I mean, we know how bad bad it is. But now you wonder what the Braves are going to do to fill his void, at least for the time being.
I think the best way the Braves can go about this is, if possible, get rid of his contract. I don't know if they are allowed to or not, but I mean, I can't compare this to any other situation where a guy who was under a significant contract was put in a position like this. Like when you look at the Astros with Roberto Osuna, like he was still on, his first contract. When you look at Addison Russell with the Cubs, same situation. Like he was not really, he had not committed to the team necessarily. Marcell Ozuna is really the first guy you look at as someone who signed a somewhat long-term deal. He got a big payday from the Braves, and now they have to take matters into their own hands there if possible. Obviously, I can't imagine from here going forward the Braves or anyone in Major League Baseball is going to want him representing their organization, no matter what numbers he's going to put up. So I think if possible, the Braves need to terminate this contract and make sure Freddie Freeman doesn't walk next year.
Yeah, because this was a discussion point last off season with us. We asked like what should they do? Should they focus on getting Ozuna, or should they focus on extending Freeman? And they ended up signing Ozuna. There's been no public talks with the club and Freeman, and Freeman is a free agent after the 2021 season. So if they don't have Ozuna's contract on their hands, which I don't know, it's possible that might be a possibility. Then it'll make it easier to extend Freeman, and as he's not going to cost that much more per year. And and I don't know, maybe they'll look at other outfielders on the free agent market, in the coming seasons. But then again, you don't really know what's going to happen with this contract.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not sure exactly what if they're allowed to just get rid of that, because I know that contracts are supposed to be guaranteed in Major League Baseball. If you sign a contract, you're going to get paid it. I mean, this is a felony charge, obviously. This is very, very serious. So I mean, I'm sure there is some sort of exemption from stuff like that. I mean, just to go forward on the Freeman point, I know that the Braves, when they signed Marcell Ozuna, they probably couldn't have predicted something like this was going to happen. But this is still going to make the Braves organization look bad. And, whether they had a say in it or not, it's going to fall on them in a way, because he wears their uniform, he represents them.
Yeah, very much so.
And, anything he says or does, organization to being held accountable. And, like I said, they chose him kind of over Freeman in a way. And Freeman, obviously he's a fantastic player, but he is one of the more liked and more respected players off the field. We see him and his wife and his son, with those videos of them at home. And, obviously we can't, say everything from personal experience, because neither of us have met Freddie Freeman. We don't know how he is, but, from what we do see from, social media and TV, he does look like, a very well respectable individual. And he is the face of the Braves franchise. So I mean, I think this is an opportunity for the Braves where you have to set a better example than what you have right now and make sure that guy stays around for as long as he can.
Yeah, absolutely. Excellent point there. Freeman's definitely represented the Braves organization well for his entire career there. He's been there for 11 years. So, I don't know if maybe if this never happened, maybe the Braves would have signed Freeman anyway. I don't know how much money they can give up, but yeah,
But I think they have no choice now. They have to.
yeah, yeah. I imagine the Braves owner has enough money to get a deal like get a deal like that done, and probably provide some happiness to the Braves fan base after a situation like this happened.
I mean, like if you don't sign Freeman, the look that you're giving to the outsiders is that you gave all that money to an abuser, but you didn't give it to Freddie Freeman.
Right. Yeah, that's a good point. It definitely would look bad in the public eye. Anything more on the situation?
I think I kind of laid out everything. We've probably seen the last of him in the majors, and I hope he gets some kind of help because he's obviously not in a good place right now. Um, Realistically, he's probably going to jail, and obviously he's never going to play again. And I have no doubt about that. I can't imagine any team, uh, no matter what his offensive production looks like, is going to want a guy like him representing their organization. That's why Roberto Osuna is a free agent. That's why Addison Russell is no longer in baseball. Those were young guys with a lot of potential. And Ozuna is only going to be getting older, especially as he's going to be, what is he, like in his early 30s right now? Something
Um,
like that.
yeah, I think he's
Like
30.
he's gonna, if he's, yeah, like if he does 3 or 4 years or so off the baseball due to the incident, he's going to come back 34, 35 years old, and it's not going to be worth a shot at all.
Oh yeah, definitely not. He's going to be essentially useless, as he's going to be in his mid 30s, not having played baseball for a very long time, and the track record. So yeah,
Hmm.
any smart team would not get involved with him whatsoever if he does indeed go to jail for this and gets that minimum 3-year sentence. Yeah, you hate to see a talented individual like himself kind of go on this bad path, but it is what the scenario is, and I guess that's what we have on the Marcell Ozuna story. Uh, pretty tragic, honestly, as how it's all gone down. Um, and more Braves news, definitely lighter, definitely all pretty much on the field stuff. Something I found interesting, how this whole thing has been reported, especially by the manager Brian Snitker, Mike Soroka. So Brian Snitker, I think on Thursday or Friday, announced that Mike Soroka was out for the year with his Achilles injury that he suffered in July or August of 2020. And then later on, a couple days later, then he stated that was a mistake. He is actually just going to be reevaluated in 2 weeks, and we'll see where he's at. It's probably not good either way for Soroka, but kind of weird. Like, we don't really know what's going on with him.
We really don't. The Braves rotation needs him. They are 23rd in the majors in starting pitcher FWAR. Uh, Max Fried was hurt, and he's kind of been underperforming. Husker Yanoa's hurt. They need Soroka back, and it doesn't look like they're going to be getting him, especially for a team that's been sort of underperforming this entire year, like they've been. Um, but yeah, the way Snitker goes about reporting it here is very weird.
Yeah, I'm looking at this MLB article talking about Soroka, and the quote with Snitker talking about how he's retracted his statement says, quote, "I messed up today when I was on that little TV show with Mad Dog, Chris Russo," Snitker
Of
said.
course.
Soroka does have a chance of getting back, and I didn't think he did. So that was my fault. I created a firestorm with all of that. So it's just like he probably just got the wrong information or heard something wrong. But I don't know. I don't know what it. This has been a very long, strenuous process for
It has been.
Soroka. So I don't know how most people recover from Achilles injuries like this. Obviously it looked terrible when it happened on the field, but it's it's tough for him either way, and he's probably not going to be back for a little bit anyway.
Yeah, I mean I feel bad for Mike Soroka because he obviously didn't ask for any of this, and this was not like the injury wasn't like a long process like this was. It wasn't like a big buildup into a long injury. It was a freak accident that happened on a field. That sort of just, it snowballed into this whole thing where we're not really sure if he's coming back this year, if he's coming back in September, whenever. Like it's been very confusing. I just feel bad because, obviously he didn't ask to be put in that sort of situation where no one really knows what's going on.
Yeah, exactly. And right, you talk about the Braves pitching situation, and yeah, like when in 2019, Soroka was kind of their ringleader, and then in 2020 it was more Max Fried and Ian Anderson, but yeah, it just hasn't been the same. Has not been the same since then. Fried has not been the same as he would. He set a high standard for himself. He's not, met that high standard this season. Ian Anderson kind of put a higher standard on himself, and he's not quite the same. He's mostly just kind of a good pitcher right now. He's not as excellent as he was last year, as it was kind of hard for him to reach that standard that he was at last year. And yeah, Charlie Morton, he's kind of pitching like someone who's 38 years old. So yeah, it stinks for the Braves that he's not able to pitch for them, as he was definitely a quality arm for them. And yeah, I mean, the best the Braves can hope for is that he comes back for the last couple months and is good to go for a potential postseason run. But I wouldn't be surprised if he actually was not able to join them for this season.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean it sort of is looking more and more like that at this point, because everyone's just so, I guess, confused. I don't know if that's the right way to put it or not, but it really does seem like no one actually knows what's going on. But yeah, I mean, at this point, I really wouldn't count on him coming back, unfortunately.
Yeah, very much so, unfortunately. But yeah, and also the problem with this is we don't see a lot of torn Achilles in the sport of baseball, so we don't really know the usual timetable on something like this.
Yeah.
Oddly enough. So yeah, found that pretty interesting from the Braves end of things. A little, on the lighter end, oddly enough, for this episode. But former Brave Josh Donaldson was in a social media exchange with Dallas Braden, and apparently has some information. Do you have more on this, Daniel?
Yeah, so I mean, it's kind of been common knowledge at this point that pitchers are using substances, and the league said that they were going to crack down on it. They did that thing where they took Trevor Bauer's ball and he complained about it. but they haven't. But it doesn't really seem like much else has been done other than that. And Josh Donaldson is going to take matters into his own hands. And what did he say here? What did he say? Yeah. So, okay, I'm going to read the entire exchange. So it starts with Dallas Braden. This was a few days ago on Twitter. He said, quote, Joe West has backed his umpires and the league into a corner. He's got to make somebody enforce it or be damned, or he's going to expose the lack of desire from MLB to enforce to enforce this, which isn't a secret. From their S word, either changes or they're going to see guys using Velcro. So he's essentially saying, Joe West seems to be the only umpire here that's really taking this thing seriously. And Josh Donaldson responds and says, crazy idea here, but I'm going to throw it out there. Stop cheating. And Dallas responds and says, brother, we both know the difference between pine tar, rosin, sunscreen, and the other stuff being used today. The common denominator is with all of those is how/if/when/to whom they enforce it. It's horribly inconsistent at best. No precedent is the precedent. What's next? So then this is kind of the big one. Josh Donaldson responds and says, I agree. I have an entire catalog of video of these guys cheating, and it's coming out. I don't know where exactly Josh Donaldson does he have like a social media presence anywhere? Or I mean, not like a YouTube presence? Like, I'm assuming he's not doing this through like Twitter. Like, this is going to be some big thing. Does Josh Donaldson have a YouTube channel?
Not that I've heard.
Because if he does, I'm gonna just subscribe to it if it exists and throw on those notifications. I sound like every YouTuber. Subscribe, hit the bell. I'll actually do it for Josh Donaldson here because of this video.
Yeah, I mean he's promising a lot.
But I mean, I would be very, very intrigued. Obviously, like it's. Imagine if Mike Fiers did this. Imagine if this is how he did it.
Yeah. He's like, I have hours and hours of us banging trash cans.
Mm-hmm.
To put it up on YouTube.
He did the whole investigation by himself.
I'm gonna make it a
I don't believe.
series.
Doesn't look like Josh Donaldson has a YouTube channel that I can find. So I don't know where exactly this video would be going. Maybe on Twitter. But I mean, if it's a whole catalog, Twitter only allows you to put like 2.5-minute videos up at a time. So it'd be very interesting. What are you expecting from this? Like, I mean, obviously it's going to force the league to actually do what they've been saying they're going to do that haven't really been doing. But I mean, like, I don't know. Do you think the league's going to try to censor this? Like, are they going to, like, I'm sure someone's gotten a hold of them from baseball and been like, hey, don't do this.
Yeah, I don't expect a video to come out from Donaldson's end. However, pressure is kind of mounting with this with the talk of sticky stuff. We've seen a lot. Obviously it's not just pine tar or sunscreen and rosin these days. There's an advanced way to get better grip on the ball and manipulate the ball for higher spin rate. That's pretty obvious, and there's been an article from The Athletic this year talking about it, where JT Realmuto was one of the interviewees that was not anonymous, where they were talking about it. So there was an Athletic story there. There's the story of Major League Baseball talking about how they were gonna take a closer look at things. That was all the way back in March. And then there was the Bauer story, as you mentioned. So pressure is kind of mounting with Major League Baseball. It's becoming their worst kept secret right now in the year 2021. And it seems like their pressure is mounting for them to change things in the upcoming years. And it just so happens that the collective bargaining agreement ends after this year. So things may end up.
That's going to be. The offseason is going to be very interesting with all that.
Very, very much so.
The most interesting thing ever, is, I mean, everyone's seen this by now, but if you go on Baseball Savant and look at Garrett Cole's year-by-year spin rate on all of his pitches, there's just a massive upshoot in 2018, which is the year he went to the Astros. He all of his pitches cumulatively just magically got another 270 RPMs.
Yeah, it's crazy. Yeah, he went from like the 32nd percentile in spin rate to high 90s percentile in spin rate.
Yeah, 2017 he was 30. Yeah, literally 32nd to 81st to 95th to 94th and now to 93rd, where we are now. And Trevor Bauer, I mean, I know Trevor Bauer's still using the sticky stuff. I don't think his spin rate's going to be like adjusted too much if he stops using it, because he looks into so many other things that it seems like other people just don't. But I mean, Garrett Cole and Trevor Bauer are going to be the headliners in this Josh Donaldson video.
Yeah.
I think we all know that at this point.
Yeah, and I think there was a story that like the MLB cameras are not, or the television cameras aren't showing the pitchers in between pitches as much. I don't know if there's much validity to it, but it's potentially something they're trying to hide.
One of my favorite moments was in 2015 when Mike Fiers threw his no-hitter, and like a bunch of Dodgers fans were like showing pictures of like very clearly him having pine tar, and they were saying like it was like invalid. This is like, I mean, Mike Fiers wasn't by any means a name in 2015. Obviously, he's more of a name through some off the field stuff now. But like, I mean, if you Google Mike Fiers pine tar, like you can very clearly see it in his glove during the no-hitter. And I mean, that, I think that goes to show that it really is everyone. And maybe that could just be an Astros thing, because I mean, we've seen the Astros go above and beyond before with ways to get an advantage, whether it be legal or not. I really wouldn't be surprised if they're the ones that are pushing every single person to do it.
Yeah, I'm actually taking a look at Charlie Morton and his spin rates, but I don't know if there was a dramatic change from
his strikeout numbers. His strikeout numbers jumped up starting in, well, I guess he had good he had good strikeout numbers before, I guess, but in smaller sample sizes. But like,
they absolutely
actually, no, they didn't. No, they didn't. Yeah, I mean, well, I guess in 2016, but that was only in 17 innings pitched. Yeah, okay. The most strikeouts per nine Charlie Morton had ever had in like a kind of full season before he went to the Astros was 7.2. He did have 9.9 in 2016, but that was only in 17 innings pitched. Since then, the year he joined the Astros in 2017, his strikeouts per nine by year went from 10.0 to 10.8 to 11.9 to 11.1 to 9.9 to 10.6. So I mean, the Astros did something, and I'm not saying that necessarily was cheating. I don't know, because it's not exactly out there, but it very well could be in the coming weeks.
Yeah, potentially. There's definitely something there, and obviously spin rate has a lot to do with the growing strikeout rates. It's not just launch angle, believe it or not. Spin rate has a lot to do with that.
I was looking. Yeah, I was looking at this, and I think I went on Savant yesterday, and I looked at I think it was 23% of pitches, all pitches thrown this year, have had at least 2,500 RPMs, and that number in 2015 was like 8%. Like it's gone up every single year. It's not like it was like 24 in 2020 and then it went to back like a little bit down in 2021. It has gone up every single year since 2015. And same thing with I think 70. I want to say yesterday it was 79, or no, it was 80% of pitches. 80 something percent of pitches have a spin rate of at least 2,000 RPMs, and that number was below 70% in 2015. Let me check the exact number.
Yeah, it's been growing so high that this is
spin rate at least 2,000 RPM.
It seems like it's beyond analytics or training. There probably has to be something external that is affecting this.
83% of all pitches thrown in 2021 have had a spin rate above 2,000 RPM. And and that's not necessarily uncommon. It never really was. In 2015 though, it was I believe it was 69.9%, so like just under 70. Which is still, it's obviously very common. Before spin rate was really a thing, or at least, I mean, to the public, it wasn't really a thing. Maybe it was to like, front offices and baseball ops, but just under 70% of pitches. I can't imagine it was anything much lower in like 2014 before we started tracking it.
Yeah, right. Oh, what was? Did you mention the 2,500 RPMs is like
23%.
So it's 23% now in 2021.
And it was 8% in 2015.
Yeah, I mean that's a big jump. That's a very big jump.
Yeah, if you're wondering why the lack of offense, there's your reasoning right there.
Yeah, because I mean, curveballs just have more snap to them than they ever have, and fastballs have more quote unquote rise than they've ever had, and that's gone. The pitching analytics and the whatever they use, that's been more of an improvement than whatever hitting analytics have happened in the last 10 years. Yeah, it's
Yep.
It's an epidemic for sure, and I think MLB, Major League Baseball, there's pressure, and it's been a big story over the past year. So, yeah, we'll see.
Yeah, I mean, like electronic sign stealing was a thing before the Astros. Like, the Red Sox got caught with the Apple Watches that turned out to be literally nothing. I mean, it was something, but the league didn't do anything about it. And everyone knew that electronic sign stealing was a thing in baseball before the Astros scandal broke. I think a lot of the reason why the Astros scandal got so much magnitude was A, because the team won the World Series with it, and B, just because of how crazy advanced their ideas were. And did you see that Eric Kratz recently? Did you see that Eric Kratz outed the 2018 Rockies like a couple weeks ago?
Yeah, I did. Because you retweeted it or quote tweeted it or something.
I did.
It's crazy. Yeah, I don't know. I didn't really get the details on that.
So they had like a massage gun or something like that. They would like hammer against their bench when it was like an off speed or something.
Yeah, I'm assuming they didn't have, or I don't know, did they have I'm assuming they didn't have the camera in center field like the Astros did. I mean, but
I'm
I don't
pretty
know
sure
I don't know
think
how
they
else they would do that.
I think that, yeah, they had to have.
Yeah, it's just no one would care because they got eliminated in 3 games by the Brewers.
Yep, and they scored 2 runs that whole series too, because figured it out. Like with that, like the way to combat that sign stealing is by figuring it out. Like the Astros did it, or the Nationals did it in 2019. The Brewers obviously did it in 2018, and obviously the Red Sox. Of course, Alex Cora knew what they were doing. And the Red Sox were proven to have not been able to do their sign stealing method in the playoffs.
Yep. Yeah. So, it's a growing thing.
I think the point I'm trying to make here is that you might be very surprised with some of the pitchers that are going to be on this list that Josh Donaldson is going to release. Like, it's not just going to be your Garrett Coles, your Trevor Bauers, your Walker, I don't know, like all your ace pitchers. It's going to be like the number 5 guy on the Orioles. It's going to be, the guy that made 3 starts with the Marlins in 2017. Like, it's going to be a bunch of random people.
Oh yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. In the late 90s and early 2000s, it wasn't just Barry Bonds, Mark McGwire, Sammy Sosa, and Rafael Palmeiro. It wasn't just them who were doing steroids. There were also guys that were at the Mendoza line who were also doing steroids.
If you go look at the Mitchell report and read through every.
You cut out there for a little bit. Can you say that again?
Oh, okay. Yeah, if you go and look at the people that were in the Mitchell report, you probably aren't going to know half the names.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Yeah, they're like it was a thing where like everyone was doing it, and it's kind of the same thing with pitchers with you know, pine tar and beyond that, you know, all these different methods to get a better spin rate. Yeah.
Yeah.
It definitely will surprise people. It's not just the top pitchers who are doing it. It's everyone. Everyone goes to the glove or their hat for whatever reason. And yeah, I don't know. I don't know what the future holds with Josh Donaldson and what he has to bring to the table. But I hope he has something. It would add some.
By the way, random thing. Remember that time in, I think it was like 2017 or so, in Yadier Molina, like there was a ball in the dirt that ended up sticking to his chest protector?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that was like that. Those are other methods. Like, you might see it through catchers. It's not necessarily just, guys who go from hat to glove to arm. Like they do it in numerous different ways.
Yeah, and it's not illegal for position players to have pine tar or sticky stuff on their gloves. So, this is something that can be transmitted. You like when people talk about the baseballs being like collected, there's sticky stuff on the baseball. It doesn't necessarily have to come from whatever the pitcher is using. It can come from, a catcher or, beyond that.
First baseman. Yeah, imagine a ground out to shortstop. First baseman catches it with the pine tar in his hand, throws it back to the pitcher, even though it goes around the horn most of the time.
Right. And I imagine it would be very easy for the catcher to get whatever they want onto the ball, put in stuff on shin guards. There's a lot of places you can put it for a catcher. Helmet.
Yep.
Yeah, so we'll see what Josh Donaldson has to bring to the table. I hope there's something out there. It would be very interesting to see. It would be a very interesting story, and no one would get. I don't think anyone would get punished for it because you need to do more than have a video or whatever. This needs to be caught in game, but this would be extremely interesting.
Yeah, I'm very intrigued.
All right, 1 second. All right, and now we get into our, one of probably our favorite part of the show, the part we've most prepared for. Part we've most prepared for, where we, highlight some good subjects that have been overperforming, subjects that have been underperforming. And I say subjects because that can be player, team, part of team. Like I did the Giants pitching rotation or starting rotation a little while back, but mostly it's players. So now we get into the Monday, May 31st, the Memorial Day 2021 edition of How About That? So who do you have to highlight for good reasons?
So I got to make something up to a franchise because last time I talked about a Miami Marlins player on Slightly Alarming. So now I'm going to turn the tides and talk about another Miami Marlin on How About That. Since May 14th, he is slashing 432, 490, 773, and 1263. And also since May 20th, he is the major league leader in batting average with a 500, OBP with a 563, OPS with a 1527, WOBA with a 630, and weighted runs created plus with a 310. All those are in his last 9 games. He leads the majors, like I said, in all of those categories. And Garrett Cooper has been pretty much the best hitter in the league over the last week and a half or so.
Wow. Garrett Garrett Cooper.
How about that?
Yeah, that's a shot. So like, over the past how many games he's had a 1500 OPS?
Since his last 9 games, 3 home runs. He's 14 for 28 with 3 home runs, 6 RBI.
Yeah, that's longer than a
Yep.
postseason series. That's pretty.
Yep.
Look at this guy. Wow. Garrett Cooper. My how about that is another right-handed hitting player, you know, not muddling down the categories there, but not really singling out anybody there. But mine is a Cardinal, Tyler O'Neill. He's been doing extremely well over the past month or so. On the season, he's hitting 271 with a 914 OPS and also a 153 OPS plus. According to Baseball Savant, he is in the 100th percentile for expected slugging and in the 98th percentile for expected WOBA. So this is not someone who is necessarily just getting lucky at all. He's definitely earning all the he's definitely earning his percentage points and all that. And in his last 24 games, particularly, he is hitting 326 with a 1096 OPS. And also, since April 25th, actually, this stat was from yesterday, but I believe it is still true for today. But since April 25th, even despite missing 8 consecutive games since April 25th, he is still tied for third in home runs in this span. So he's been incredible. You know, the last 24 games, 326 with a 1096 OPS. He earns a.
How about that?
So, yeah, Tyler O'Neill, Garrett Cooper, carrying the freight for their teams.
Chris, random trivia here. Do you remember who Tyler O'Neill was traded for?
I should.
It's an active major leaguer.
If I feel like if I ask what team, that kind of gives it away. Was he in the top? No, he wasn't in.
I'm pretty sure he was a first round pick the year he was traded.
Let
me check that.
He wasn't in the Tommy Pham trade, I don't think.
No.
Because he's been.
You might be surprised that the Cardinals ever had this guy.
Okay. That the Cardinals ever had.
I'll give you another hint. It's a trade where, in hindsight, both teams benefited from it. It was pretty much a 1-for-1 deal.
He was
definitely not. But he was a 3rd round pick. Never mind.
How did the other team benefit? Like, was it a short-term thing, or is he still there?
No, it's a player that's still on the team that has been performing very well for them during his time.
Huh. I don't think it's not a Ledmus Diaz, is it?
It is. It was one of my players to watch this year.
Huh. That's very interesting.
Yeah.
Oh, one of players to watch. I was thinking, how about that? So yeah, players to watch.
I think he was a how about that of mine as well. Actually, he was a slightly alarming of mine recently because he's kind of struggled out of the gate this year. But he was one of my players to watch for sure.
Marco Gonzalez. Marco Gonzalez.
Bingo.
Ah, wow.
Yeah.
Very interesting. Yeah, it's kind of worked out for both teams. And yeah, if that trade never happened, it's just kind of like, oh, the Cardinals would just have better pitching and the Mariners would just have better hit. I feel like the
Mariners would just have a 7th outfielder.
Oh, right. Yeah. Yeah. It would be O'Neill, Kelnick, Lewis, bunch of people.
Rodriguez, Trammell.
Right. Yeah, so I guess that trade in hindsight was definitely necessary for the Mariners for sure. And
I'm pretty sure. Okay, well, I said 1st round pick. I think the correct thing is I believe he was a top 100 prospect when they traded him. He was like at least a big name in the Mariners farm.
That seems
Because I
about
remember
right.
being very confused that the Mariners gave up like someone significant. Let me see. Minor league and fall stats. Yeah, pre 2017, he was in Baseball Prospectus. He was number 53. He was traded after 2017. So pre 2018, he was in the 94th overall prospect,
Yeah, and
which is
also
his first year in the Cardinals system.
if you have to consider, like, he was drafted in the 3rd round out of high school, like, so that meant if he went to college, he was
Mhm.
probably going to be a first rounder.
Exactly.
Oh, he's Canadian too. Didn't know.
Yeah.
So now from the highs to the lows, now we get into subjects that have been underperforming. Now for the 2021 Memorial Day edition of.
Slightly alarming.
So who do you have? Who's been struggling on your radar?
So this is definitely a market issue, but this is a guy that was kind of looked at as one of the league superstars this time, maybe 1 year ago, 2 years ago, or something like that. And I was very high on him, but he got hurt last year and he's been struggling this year, and not a lot of people are talking about it. I'm looking at Matt Chapman.
Ah,
Since May 19th, Matt Chapman is slashing 094. He's hitting under 100 since May 19th. I believe that's over 11 games played. He does have a 279 OBP, so he is getting his walks in, but he also has an 094 slugging, which is the 3rd worst in the majors. So he has not had an extra base hit in this sample. And overall, he is a 373 OPS, which is a 44 weighted runs created plus, I believe. And since 2019, his exit velocity has gone down 4.5 miles an hour. His expected weighted on base average has gone down nearly 60 points, and his strikeout rate has gone up nearly 10%. And worst of all, since 2020, he's lost 188 points in his expected slugging, and that drop off between 2020 and 2021 is the 2nd worst in the majors among qualifiers. So Matt Chapman has not been doing very well, and there hasn't been a ton of attention brought to it, especially if you look at like what Francisco Lindor's been doing with the Mets. There's been a lot of media attention around that, not nearly as much around Matt Chapman, and I think we all know why. There's a difference between playing in New York and playing in Oakland, especially when the A's have other things to worry about right now. But Matt Chapman has certainly been a problem right now since the last half month or so.
yeah. I didn't really know that was occurring. Yeah, and this was one of the elite players in baseball. He got MVP votes.
I was arguing he was a top 3 third baseman in the league before 2020.
Yeah, and it was a very good argument. You know, in 2018 and 2019, 7th and 6th in the MVP vote, respectively. He was my 2020 AL MVP prediction.
Mm-hmm.
And because I was pretty high on I believed that he would have a very good 2020, and got injured about 2/3 of the way through and was out for the season, and not quite the same. I forget what the injury was that sidelined him.
I do too. Yeah.
That can be looked up, but I wonder if it is something that could.
I'm glad he's getting his
be
walks in at
lingering.
least though, because I mean, like if his walk rate wasn't so huge, like it looks a lot worse than it already does.
It says it was a hip. He had to get hip surgery, so it could be a lingering thing. Like, hips are very important in hitting,
It could.
and you know,
Yeah, I mean, and it makes sense because when you look at his slash line, some of the severe problems have been with the actual hitting part. Because, like I just said, he's getting his walks in. He has a 279 on base percentage, but he hasn't had an extra base hit since at least 2 weeks ago. And at the same time, he's hitting under 100.
oh yeah, and you mentioned the savant stats. If the exit velocity is way down, he's not getting as much power behind the ball. It might be
Yeah,
a thing with hip transfer. It's not as
likely. Like, I
effective.
mean, the hip could still be a problem.
Yeah, it very well could be. Like, there's definitely an argument there that his hip is still lingering him. Like, his exit velocity's gone down like 4.5 miles per hour, right?
Mm-hmm. It
Yeah,
went from like 92 something to 88 something.
yeah, that's pretty major. Yeah, I'm looking at his savant. His hard hit percentage has gone down, over 12 percentage points, or yeah, over 13 percentage points since 2020. He's striking out at approximately the same rate as 2020, a little more than before, and he's walking more than he ever has. So
Yeah, his
uh,
walks have been awesome.
yeah, his walk rate is 14.4%. It was never above 10.9%
It's
before
in
that.
it's in the top 10 percentile.
Yeah, it's his walk percentage is in the 93rd percentile in the league.
Mm-hmm.
That's pretty intriguing. Something to keep your eye on, because this could be a lingering issue from
Don't
his
be
hip
surprised. I
surgery.
was say, don't be surprised if we see an IL stint in the next coming weeks or so.
Yeah, which is pretty terrible, especially from someone who was an elite player in 2018 and 2019, and potentially probably could have been top 10 in wins above replacement if he played a full 2020 as well. Yeah.
I would even say top 5.
Right. Yeah. You don't want to see that guy's downfall, because he's one of the reasons to watch he's been one of the reasons to watch the Oakland A's over the past few years, but not doing the best. This, we actually have a bit of similarity in our slightly alarmings. I have another American League West third baseman. For slightly alarming.
Oh, I was gonna go with him.
Yeah, I'm talking about.
I already know who it is because I was looking at him.
Yeah, Anthony Rendon. Going with the theme of AL West third baseman. Currently, he's hitting.
And you could also have said Kyle Seager too.
Oh right, yeah, yeah. There's AL West third baseman outside of like Alex Bregman. Not doing great.
I was thinking about Rendon, but I looked at Seager too. I was like, oh, he hasn't been doing too well either.
Yeah, I think I was looking like more long term.
Yeah.
Long term, bad play. Yeah, Rendon currently in 2021, and by the way, these stats are all through May 30th. If the audience is wondering, he's currently hitting 220 with a 636 OPS. His expected WOBA is in the 20th percentile, so he's not really getting unlucky. His expected WOBA is pretty much perfectly in line with his actual weighted on base average. And on May 3rd, he suffered a knee contusion from a foul ball, which sent him to the IL. And since coming back from the IL, he is hitting 167 with a 465 OPS in 17 games. So injury maybe could be linked to his lack of success in the past 17 games. 465 OPS is not what you want to see from a guy like Rendon. And in terms of more savant stuff, his line drive rate is the lowest it has ever been in the StatCast era, and his pop-up rate is the highest it's ever been in the StatCast era by a significant margin. So Anthony Rendon and Matt Chapman, the AL West third baseman, looking
Slightly alarming.
not great. Not great to see. You want to see superstars perform like the superstars that they are. So injuries could be playing a factor with those two. Probably more with Chapman than Rendon, but not great. Anyway, that leads to our preview of the week ahead. I'm probably going to look at some series. Daniel's going to look at some day-by-day matchups, especially in the pitching department. I'll start with some series. It's hard because one of the two series that I highlighted last week or last episode, one of the two series, like, both are playing very good series this week. So I hate to repeat teams, but
Yep.
Kind of the top two series to look at for me, from my point of view, is Astros Red Sox and Cubs Padres. Cubs Padres kind of hits me more because, you know, we talked about the Cubs. We talked about the Cubs last episode and how, you know, they were on a very hot streak and how it's kind of continued now. But they're going to be facing a stretch of about 2.5 weeks of very, very tough competition. So it's going to be interesting to see how they handle it. And it starts with the Padres, where they will be playing in Wrigley Field for, I believe, a 3-game. I believe it is a 3-game series. Yeah, it seems that way. Yeah. Yeah, and then Cubs face the Giants on Thursday. So it's going to be a 3-game series with Cubs Padres as on Monday, which is going to be happening actually about an hour after the recording. You have Chris Paddock versus Cole Stewart, who's going to be making his first start of 2021. First start since 2019, it looks like. Then on Tuesday it's going to be Kyle Hendricks, who is kind of recovered from his bad April, versus Ryan Weathers, who, very good pitcher, gets about 3 or 4 innings per start. That's what Jace Tingler allows from him. So that'll be interesting to watch. And then Wednesday, you got Daniel's player to watch, Adbert Alzolay, who's looking like he's having a pretty good 2021, versus Dinelson Lamet, who was a candidate for all MLB team last year. And he's made 2 starts thus far this year, was injured, and that's going to be a matchup Wednesday afternoon. And then Red Sox Astros, that's kind of the second series to look at. Monday, you got Urquidy Rodriguez. Tuesday, you have Luis Garcia, Garrett Richards. This is also a 4-gamer, by the way. Wednesday is Framber Valdez versus Nick Pivetta. And Thursday is Jake Odorizzi, Martin Perez. So not a lot of elite arms going, but, you know, two of the best offenses in the American League going against each other in Houston. Houston also, they've lost 6 of their last 8, so maybe they can try to stop the bleeding there. Against the Red Sox, it'll be a tough task. But yeah, those are my series to look at.
Yeah.
What are you looking at day by day?
Well, what I'm looking at day by day is how conflicted we're going to be watching the Red Sox face Jose Urquidy.
That's true. Yeah, I mean, we're all winners.
He's our guy.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Monday's pretty easy as far as pitching matchups. There's only really one that pops out to me. At 9:10 tonight Eastern time, you got Jack Flaherty versus Trevor Bauer. Cardinals Dodgers going up in LA this week. By the way, I just want to highlighting for a series, and you know, I'm not denying that he's a great pitcher, but I'm kind of out on some of the stuff he's doing, man. Of the sword celebration and the one eye thing.
Oh, you're kind of out on him.
Yeah. Like, you saw that tweet that he had, right?
Yeah. He's getting a bit carried away.
There's no patent on celebrations. Anyone can do what they want. Like, there's no like, you don't have a right to any of the celebrations, and I don't understand why he thinks he does. It's very weird to me. Anyway, that's that. And oh yes, the Indians, like 5 minutes ago, announced their starting pitching for the week. On Tuesday, my matchup to watch is Dylan Cease versus Shane Bieber. That one's pretty easy. I was waiting on the Indians to get back on that, so I could actually, you know, announce that. Also, Aaron Nola versus Sonny Gray on Saturday. Phillies Reds, that'll be a good one. And then Wednesday, my matchup to watch is definitely Adbert Alzolay, like you mentioned. You know, you mentioned Dinelson Lamet. Adbert Alzolay, he was my player to watch, and I got some numbers on him. In his last 6 starts, Chris, he is a 3.12 ERA and 34 2/3 innings pitched with 34 strikeouts and 5 walks.
Wow. keeping the walks down.
Yeah, he struggled a bit at the beginning of the season, but he's been picking it up. And I believe that walk rate, that walks per nine since April 29th is, I think, like the 9th best in the majors or something like that. I looked it up the other day, but it's probably since updated.
That's very interesting. Was he did he have like walk issues last year and he's solving them this year, or am I thinking of another person? That's
No, I'm pretty sure he did last year. Let me just go on his page. But yeah, I think his problem was he had like 5 walks per 9 or something like that. The only issue is 3 of those 5 walks over his last 6 starts were in his last outing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he had 5.5 walks. He had 5.5 walks per 9 this year, 1.8, or last year versus this year. His strikeout per 9 has gone down by 3, but I mean it's a larger sample size. You can't expect 12.2 to be sustainable at all.
Yeah. And his strikeout to walk ratio has doubled.
Yes, it has. So that's awesome. And his hits per 9 is still at 6.5, which is pretty good.
Yeah, I think the only problem for him is home runs.
Yeah, but I mean that's kind of a problem for everyone at this point.
Yeah. Sort of.
What are you gonna do? But yeah, that's my Albert Alzolay segment.
All right. So that does it for this edition of Above Replacement Radio. We hope you enjoyed this one. If you are listening on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, want to watch the conversation as it happens, go to our YouTube channel and subscribe to the YouTube channel. It's called Above Replacement Radio. Also, if you want to follow us on social media, follow me on Twitter at Chris_Gianta. Follow Daniel on both Twitter and Instagram at Daniel_Curran, and follow the show Instagram at Above Replacement Radio to get all the show needs and updates. And we hope you enjoyed this one, and we hope to see you on Thursday, where we will be talking all the happenings in Major League Baseball and probably the series and matchups that we just discussed in the preview. So we will see you then.
This conversation is over.